Hi, Matthew.
Hey, do you still need somebody for a quorum? I can be there in about 15.
No, I think we have it covered.
Okay, perfect. I wasn't sure I had my stuff ready to walk out the door.
Thank you, though.
Okay, no problem.
Appreciate
I'll
you
stand
reading
by
the
then.
email. I think we can't say that yet.
Katrina, can I verify that you can hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. This is Patricia.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Thank you. Good to hear your voice.
yes, ma'am. Thank you.
If Paul is speaking, we can't hear him.
So can you hear me now? Everybody?
Yes, sir.
All right. Then we will call to order the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee meeting at 6:31. And we have a quorum present. We have myself, Jim Markson, Dennis Hilborn, and Doreen Snedeker. Item number 2, consider for approval the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee meeting minutes of May 25th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Very good. All in favor? Raise your hand. So we are unanimous with those present. You need a roll call vote, all right? Jim Markson?
Yes.
Dennis Hilborn?
Yes.
Doreen Snedeker? Am I saying that
Yes.
right? Right. And Paul Wallach votes yes. Move on. Item number 3. Consider an act regarding recommendation to City Council for approval of the fiscal year 2021-22, I think, biannual report. So,
Chairman, this is Jim Quinn. I'd like to say that Marcy Lamb, Mike Bedford, and Roman Boystoff developed this report. The financials are absolutely accurate, and Roman and his team developed the capital improvement plans. And as you see, look at it, we have years tied to the items now. And I'll let Roman explain if you answer any questions, Roman will do that.
so are you?
Chairman, committee members, can everybody hear me?
Who's Roman?
Roman is the Belchef Associates engineer who worked on the capital improvement program and the financials with Marcy Lamb and Mike Bedford.
All right, very good.
Just like Mr. Quinn mentioned, I'm Roman. I'm with Belchef and Associates with the city engineer's office. We as a staff will put together a semi-annual report, which is essentially required for any cities that have impact fee in place. And the code requires that on semi-annual basis, the committee would meet to evaluate the progress of impact fee collections, how they compare to the projections that were established by the latest reports, and evaluate the current financial status of the capital improvement funds, and essentially give you a status update on each of the capital improvement projects that's in progress or to be completed. That's essentially what you see in your report. There are 4 supporting documents or attachments. Supporting document number 1 summarizes number of building permits and impact fees essentially collected based on those building permits issued. For the last 6 months, the city has collected over 218 what you would call them individual MUEs or meter equivalent units in sewer, and 296 and a half MUEs collected in the water department, for a total of 389 MUEs for entire year in sewer and 515 MUEs in water for the entire year. And on supporting document 2, essentially you can see that those fees collected or building permits issued are somewhat in line with the projections that have been established by the 2018 water impact fee study and 2021 sewer impact fee update study. So based on those numbers and projections and actual collected fees, we recommend that those studies be left as is, and no update is most likely necessary at this point in time. Attachment number 3, or supporting document number 3, summarizes the current impact fee fund status. As you can see, there's the ending balance as of the end of the last fiscal year is $1.5 million in sewer impact fee fund and $689,000 in, I'm sorry, it's $1.5 million in water impact fee fund and $689,000 in sewer impact fee fund. And finally, the supporting document number 4 summarizes list of impact fee eligible projects. They are broken down by water and sewer eligible projects and the general status of those projects. As you can see, only 1 water impact fee eligible projects based on the latest study has been completed, and 1 sewer impact fee project has been essentially almost complete. So as a result of these findings, once again, the recommendation by staff is for the chairman to provide recommendation to city council to approve this report and essentially collect the impact fees as currently set in place by the latest studies and follow implementation of the impact fee eligible projects as contained in the supporting documents. I would be more than happy to answer any questions if anybody have.
I have a question. Can you tell me how, or remind me how the MUEs are figured, the impact fee? Like, is that by the size of the house? Is that why the numbers are different?
Yeah, essentially we're trying to standardize everybody's connections, and the best standardized unit that's been in place is a single family residential connection. And that's what essentially MUE means. Some of the impact fee studies, my reference is SFUE, which is single family residential connection. But in this report, yes, it's a single family or MUE single family residential connection or single family house. So essentially a commercial connection might be a bigger meter, like a 1 inch or 2 inch. So 1 inch meter would have 2.5 times the impact of the typical residential house, and 2 inch meter would have 5 times the impact of the typical residential single family house, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Roman, then on the water fee and sewer fee, the different numbers, I don't know if we're asking that, $536.75 versus $22.92. Is that the size of the meter? Does that represent a different meter size? Then we got down at the bottom, we got 18,000 for 8 MUE. That must be some.
Yes.
That's a commercial.
Essentially, the 18,000. Yes, the fee for water is fixed and based on the single unit family residential unit which would be 1 MUE. So 1 MUE, the fee for 1 MUE is $2,292 for water and $1,978 for sewer. And let's see, the fee that you referenced is essentially for larger than 1 single unit family residential unit. To the left, there should be a column and that specifies the factor which base it's calculated. So if you take the 2292 and multiply it by 2.5, you essentially get, for example, 5,731. So it's a direct correlation based on the factors. With the exception of smaller fees that you might notice in water and sewers collected for Latera subdivision residential. And that is because that there is a specific development agreement that was put in place reducing those fees for that development only.
So the fee indicated here for the first one is 1 MUE, $536.75, and the sewer fee $463.25 for Tyler Court was predetermined in a previous agreement. So everything in Latera is guided by that agreement. Correct.
Only Latera residential subdivision has its own impact fees that are different from your global impact fees that are charged to everybody else. And that was calculated, I believe, based on the impacts, individual impacts that were expected from that subdivision. And they were essentially subsidized by the developer in the form of offsite improvements, costs that they bared. So as a result, their impact fees were offset, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Document 2 shows up a variance in what does that mean? Document number 2 shows a variance for water plus 12%, a variance for sewer at a negative 22%. Does that impact our overall, or what impact does that have on our overall budget and projection?
How many,
Whoever can answer it.
Okay, can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So your question was, how does the variation in the actual number of impact fees collected in water and sewer affect the current impact fee fund?
Yeah, basically, does it have an impact, or is it been offset, by the current growth?
Yes, the variation, the 12% variation in water, actual water collected impact fees, and 22% variation in sewer are relatively small variations, because after all, what we're doing is we're comparing an actual number of building permits issued versus what was predicted almost more than 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So more than 3 years ago, when the study was completed, it was predicted that on average, City of Haslett will be issuing approximately 258 building permits in water every year and 285 building permits in sewer every year for a period of 10 years. Well, after the first 3 years to date, we collected, for example, as you can see, 770, instead of projected 774 building permits in water, 869 were issued. And instead of projected 856 in sewer, 671 were issued. So I would say that those projections were pretty good and fairly accurate. And you can also see that year to year, they can swing from one extreme to another quite a bit. So overall, after 3 years, I would say that we are on track of where those studies assume we would be. So as overall, I think the impact would be negligible to the actual impact fee funds.
Okay.
Does that answer kind of suffice what your question?
Well, anytime I see a negative 22% variance, it just concerned me. I can just see that 2018, 19, 19, 20 were significantly under the estimated growth. 2021, of course, is over. And maybe 21, 22 is going to exceed, and we'll catch up with that. And,
right, and it's very likely that there could be an increase in the rate of permits being issued over the last 2 years, for example, and that could go from negative to positive.
Yeah.
And then for that reason, we have these semi-annual meetings to kind of see where we are, and a more detailed, in-depth evaluation of the original studies is required to be done every 5 years, essentially. So after 2 years, we would look at the study projections more closely and see if they need to be revised or not. If the expectation need to be lowered or set higher, essentially, and how many building permits is expected to be issued over the next 5 or 10 years.
So we'll see that better at the next semi-annual meeting. If we continue to see an increase and the variance reduces or is eliminated. I mean,
yes.
the collection of water and sewer fees directly does impact the budget. I mean, you make an estimate based on how many you're gonna collect. And if you're 22% under what you've estimated, if it's a 5-year budget or whatever it is, it has an impact. So that's okay. I mean, I'm sure you guys are watching it. I just have that question. And then does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, I have a question on document number 4. The cost estimate for the 10-year CIP project. Who has prepared these cost estimates?
These cost estimates were prepared by the engineer who prepared those original studies, the impact fee water and sewer studies, back in 2018. And they were fixed based on the unit prices at that time.
So by the city engineer back in
At
2018?
that time, I believe it wasn't a city engineer. Another consultant engineer has prepared the studies and set those fees. So these numbers would not change until the actual studies would be updated.
All right. So have you guys haven't reviewed these numbers at all? Really? This has been set like this for a while, I assume?
The water projects, yes, since 2018 study, but the sewer projects have been updated in earlier this year, actually.
The sewer projects have been, not the
Yes.
water. Okay.
There was re-evaluation of the sewer impact fee study earlier this year.
Yeah. Well, I understand that. I mean, some of these waters are out here till 2026. Virtually impossible to get a reasonable estimate for that. Okay.
Yes, these are all essentially opinion on a probable construction costs that were put together at the time with the best available information. But keep in mind that once these projects are completed, these costs are going to be updated with the actual construction costs and actual project costs, full project costs, and be taken into account during the next impact fee study updates, and which would reflect any changes in the impact fees that need to be made. So if the study predicted the cost of, for example, of $2 million for a particular project, but it was end up costing $3 or $4 million to the city in 5 years, the following study report would take that into account, and when the new fee is calculated, it will be reflected, that increase will be reflected in that new fee.
Yeah, there's 2 water projects that are 2022 projects. The 12-inch water line, 69 on Harmon, and the upsizing the pumps at the south plant. So those are probably pretty, I would expect, pretty current estimates.
Yes, yes.
All right. Anybody have any other comments or questions or anything? Mr. Quinn, do you have anything you want to say? Or?
No, I just, Half Associates did the water study and Garver did the sewer study as required. So the Garver study should be very close. It was finished up this May, and Half has, I think, another 2 years to go. So I think everything's going to be good.
Very good. So,
I'd like to make a motion.
Good.
To recommend the city council the approval of the report and recommendation letter.
we have a second.
I'll second it.
So, Mr. Markison? Mr. Hilborn? Yes. Ms. Snedeker?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that passed. Wait a minute. Well, no, that's right. Brian is not on this committee. All right. So item number 4, the next meeting will be held May 24th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. And item number 5, we're adjourned. All right. So we closed the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee meeting at 6:54. Yeah, we stopped. 6:54. Sorry. I will call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held Tuesday, November 16th, and it is 6:57 p.m. So I'll take a roll call to see that we have enough up here. So, Mr. Markison?
Here.
Mr. Hilborn? Here. Nettinger?
Here.
Brian
Blacksburg here.
Brian is, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name, Brian, you messed up. Brian's here and Paul Wallach is here, so we have a quorum present. Item number 2. Items of community interest. 2.A, Christmas in the Park, Saturday, December 4th. There is a handout, looks like this. It's available online, and if you have a copy of the agenda, you can see where you can get that. And it looks like it's going to be pretty packed this year. So, as opposed to last year when we did nothing. So, it looks like it'll be good. And I hope that everybody has an opportunity to come out at least sometime during the day on December 4th and enjoy that. That'll be good. Item 2B, city holiday closures for city offices in the library, November 25th and 26th. That would be Thursday and Friday. And December 24th, Friday, and December 27th, a Monday, and December 31st. So, if you plan on coming to the city office or going to the library those days, don't do it, because they'll be closed. Item number 3, consider approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes from October 26, 2021. Read those. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Okay,
I'll second.
have a second. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, you need a verbal roll call. Mr. Markison? Mr. Hilborn?
Yes.
Mr. Nettinger?
Yes.
Brian Flashmark?
Yes.
And Paul Wallach is a yes. Okay, very good. Okay, item number 4A, hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act upon an act regarding approving an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Haslett, Texas, directing an amendment of the 2016 City of Haslett Comprehensive Plan, removing all references to the gross density option. Mr. Swain.
Chairman Wallach and members of the commission, this is an amendment to the comprehensive plan where there's some references to gross densities. And I just want to start with a couple comments about comprehensive plans. First off, when a developer wants to move into the city, the comprehensive plan is one of the first documents that he's going to look up on your internet, is just see what your policies are. And this is one of the policies that's in the comprehensive plan, which developers, especially residential developers, can see. And so that can actually mislead people on what the general direction that the city wants to go. And but I also would like to say that when people come up here in front of you and they want to ask for something, and everybody has the right to submit a zoning case, whether it's in compliance with the comprehensive plan or with what they think the city wants to do or what you want to do. And so we review those, and then we actually make our recommendations. But it's up to the Planning and Zoning Commission to make their recommendation to the City Council. Whatever they submit in the plan development or any other zoning case, you don't necessarily have to approve that. You can modify it, you can deny it, and make your recommendations such. And the City Council has the same thing, where they can take something that you've actually recommended and they can approve it or they can deny it. If the commission approves something, then they still have the authority to deny it. So I just want to make those comments, but this is really a step forward to make sure that people that look at our comprehensive plan do not get a misrepresentation of the direction of the city. And what this gross density option would lead to is more dense and smaller lots instead of usually the minimum of 20,000 square foot, and also on the R2 and the R1 of 1 acre lots. Having said that, if you have any questions of me, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Yes, sir.
Is someone speaking?
I'm sorry, I'm speaking. I keep forgetting. I said at this time, at 7:03, we will open the public hearing on item 4A in the agenda. And if there's anybody in the audience wishing to speak, if you'll come forward to the podium and state your name and your address, and kind of limit your discussion to a few minutes. We're going to get you one.
Thank you. My name's Pat Ritchie. I live on 404 Blue Mountain Road. I live right next door to a very, very extensive, fancy plan development. Without the PD, on top of what we did through the city council and the planning and zoning to get this development, if we went back to straight zoning, we wouldn't have what we got. We wouldn't have the amenities, the curvy roads, the the ponds, the docks, the fountains, and all that stuff. That was all done through the PD. So PD is just a tool for the zoning commission and the city council to use to work with developers. There's no need to do away with it, okay? If you do away with it, you're going back to straight zoning, okay? So now you're going to have half-acre lots, straight streets, you know. If that's what you think the city ought to be, then that's what you're going to get. So think long and hard about taking away your tools. The plan development is a tool in your toolbox. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else that wishes to speak to item 4A in the audience?
Are you prepared to have people virtually speak?
Just a minute.
Okay.
Do you want to take the virtual or before I read the comments that we received by email, or do you want me to go ahead and read those?
Go ahead and read. We've received email comments, and City Secretary is going to read those out loud now. That'll be good.
Okay. The first one's from Lisa McLeod. She's at 313 Schreiber Drive. It is my understanding that item 4A would remove high-density housing from the City of Haslett Comprehensive Plan. As many of the residents have demonstrated to the P&Z Board and the City Council, they are not in favor of high-density housing. In my opinion, I feel that the plan development requirements were quietly slipped into the subvert the 1/2 acre minimum ordinance that is still in effect in the city. Why have this 1/2 acre minimum ordinance if the city is just going to allow developers to put extremely small lots? In my opinion, the comprehensive plan is at odds with Haslett's own city ordinance. The ordinance should prevail. The residents have spoken out at the Caraway request for a variance for a limited number of lots from the 1/2 acre ordinance. Despite the almost unanimous objection to this variance by the residents, is nevertheless passed. And then somehow Caraway became a planned development and avoided all 1/2 acre lots. The residents have spoken at the Sweetgrass request for zoning change to planned development. I think the voice of the people have spoken, and high-density lots are not welcomed in Haslett. Therefore, this agenda item, 4A, should be approved to reconcile the city ordinance with the comprehensive plan as well as to reflect the desires of the city residents. Second request came in from Kitty Wirtz. As a concerned citizen of Haslett, I would like it to be known I am in favor of having the city's comprehensive plan be amended to remove language that allows residential lots to be less than 1/2 acre and to remove all references to the gross density option, and to present a revised comprehensive plan document for the city for approval, which will amend and supersede the 2016 City of Haslett Comprehensive Plan document. Next one is from Christine Holsey. She's at 2003 FM 156 South. I am writing in agreement with item 4A to remove all references to the gross density option at the 2016 City of Haslett Comprehensive Plan. I have lived in Haslett for over 30 years. For years, it was the plan and intent of leadership and residents of Haslett for Haslett to be an oasis of 1/2 acre minimum lot sizes in the midst of a 0 lot line city Fort Worth. The overwhelming majority of people who move to Haslett do so to get away from the congestion and move to the country. They are looking for a quality of life that is not found in many places, but that Haslett still offers. Any zoning less than 1/2 acre lot sizes contributes to more traffic congestion, contributes to overcrowding of land, and contributes to undue concentration of population, among other things. See Local Government Code Section 211.004. Please vote in favor of removing all references to the gross density option in the 2016 Comprehensive Plan. This would protect the few pieces of acreage that remain in Haslett from getting overly populated. Next one is from Kathy Brandon, and she lives at 213 Bain Road. I agree with the recommendation and hope all will vote in favor. The current comprehensive plan does not match the city's ordinances on lot sizes. Both should match and the requirement for lot sizes be followed. We have all heard citizens participate in public hearings concerning Caraway and more recently Sweetgrass. and the previous the Heights, which is now Watercress. The people requested Haslett uphold the 1.5 acre lot requirement reflected in the ordinance, but we know what happened. I ask that you listen to the citizens of Haslett and revise and update the comprehensive plan to again match the ordinance. Next one, Stephanie Grace at 1406 Poppy Drive. When we moved to Haslett, we were very happy to find a community in the Metroplex that limited lot sizes to no smaller than 1/2 acre. Over the last few years, the lingo was changed in term density, which has allowed this rule to be broken. Please change the ordinance back to no lot smaller than 1/2 acre and keep our community unique. Next one is Casey and Lindsay Lloyd at 1507 Yucca Court. In regards to Agenda 4A, my husband and I would like to say we moved to Haslett because of the 1/2 acre minimum lot size. We love the feel of a little more rural area and larger lots. I do truly believe it's the draw to our quaint town. Please consider changing the wording in the comprehensive plan back to the minimum lot size of 1/2 acre. And then the last one received was from Wyatt Parker and his wife Patricia. And we are against changing the lot size density to anything less than 1/2 acre lots that is in effect currently. We ask that this please be noted for tonight's meeting. That's all I've received by email.
Is there anybody, Jeremy, in the chat room here that would like to speak to this item? Identify yourself with your name and address, please, and one at a time.
I'd like to be recognized.
Very good. So state your name and address, please.
My name is Patricia Hilborn. I live at 2207 Virginia Lane in Haslett. This request, which removes an important part of the Haslett Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, should be denied. A change of this importance should go through a lengthy period of discussion by the citizens of Haslett. The current ordinance was adopted after months of planning meetings, workshops, and public hearings. The change requested guts the ordinance of the only tool that the city has to regulate housing exteriors, including brick. In 2019, the Texas State Legislature stripped cities of those controls under Bill 2439. A planned development agreement allows cities to negotiate these regulations, including brick on the exterior of houses, and provides for public parks, trails, and other amenities. The executive summary attached to this item suggests that only subdivision with 1/2 acre lots can meet the local government code. That would be a surprise to most Texas cities that have housing developments. Haslett's planned development subdivisions comply with the comprehensive ordinance's gross density requirement. They bring the same number of houses and no more overcrowding, light, congestion, schools, or requirements for safety, health, welfare, or utilities than other housing subdivisions. Planned developments do not increase traffic as they generate the same number of residents as housing developments that are not planned developments. This change will not stop growth in Haslett, but it will hinder the city's ability to set aesthetic restrictions or require enhancements to residential development. Please vote no and deny this request.
Would like Mr. Schwenke to address some of those comments, since I think that's been. Well, can't he address those comments?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we cannot hear your speech.
Is there anybody else on the chat room that would like to address item 4A on the agenda?
Are you ready for the virtual audience?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to address the comments that have been made and the letters that were written. My name is Joette Keene. I live at 1410 Poppy Drive. I am in favor of changing this item and would like to speak to some of the comments that have been made. One, from a planned development standpoint, there is no reason a planned development couldn't have half-acre lots. Is that, in my estimation, there's no reason you couldn't do that. So you could retain a half-acre lot minimum and still have a planned community. Because do curvy streets and beautiful fountains with high-density housing included still contribute to overcrowding, cars parked on streets, less desirable looking neighborhoods? And why would we want that in Hazlet? Hazlet has had unique offerings in the past. It was one of the reasons we chose to move here. And I wanted to also speak to the point about the lengthy discussion that went on regarding getting this part actually changed to the way it is currently. I will say during the last election cycle, I had the opportunity to speak to many, many residents in the community as we went out and talked to people about key items, particularly because people were upset with the lack of listening that went on when Caraway and Sweetgrass were approved. And it was very clear to me that the residents of Hazlet currently are very much in favor of retaining the type of unique environment that we have. We already have now approved several planned developments, with that variety being now in Hazlet. Why would we not then give ourselves the opportunity to change this back and go back to the half-acre minimum for the remaining land that we have in Hazlet for development? I hope you'll listen to not my voice, but the voice of the community that was very much in favor of moving away from high density. And again, that doesn't mean they can't be beautiful developments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. Somebody else online that would like to speak to this item 4A? Is there anybody else online that would like to speak to either for or against item 4A?
I have a question. I submitted an email, but may I speak?
Yes, this is Stephanie Grace.
Yes, Stephanie Grace at 1406 Poppy Drive. My husband and I are both in favor of putting back the half-acre, minimum terminology that's straightforward, not the gross density. And as someone previously spoke, nothing about that would change the look of the homes. We're just talking about the acreage site, which is what we all moved here for. So I just wanted to clarify that to anyone listening. That's our understanding. Nothing was talked about the exterior, just the acreage. So we are in favor of making this amendment back to what we moved here for, and just about everyone that we know in the area as well. Thank you all for hearing this.
there anybody else that wants to speak in favor of or against item 4A on the online?
Mr. Wallach, this is Patricia Hilborn, 2207 Virginia Lane, and I have already spoken.
Yes.
So if you don't want me to speak again, I won't.
Well,
But the issue is not what the verbiage is about the exterior. The state law will not let the city determine exterior requirements. But if it's in a plan development, we can, and there's no incentive for a developer to create a plan development without some consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against, either way, for item 4A? If not, then I will close the public hearing at 7:20. And open it for discussion here. Does anybody have any questions of anybody on this case? Well, I will, but I just want to conclude. Okay, Mr. Schlanke, I'd like you to address some of these comments the best you can.
Chairman Wallach, I will try to do that. First off, this does not eliminate a plan development. The plan development is a tool that the city has in their toolbox. The comprehensive plan is a policy and a guide, but it's not the law. On one hand, you have the comprehensive plan, which is a policy, what you would like to see, but the plan development and straight zoning, which can coexist in your zoning ordinance, is the law. And it's whatever is passed by this commission, recommended by this commission, and passed by the council, which it really addresses that. Now, another comment that was made was about the character of the buildings. A couple of years ago, the state of Texas legislated ugly for cities by taking away the ability to control the looks of them. Plan developments don't necessarily do away with that law. And so you can put restrictions in there what they're going to do, but it's really up to the developer and the developer's codes that they put in there, the homeowners association codes that they put into their developer agreements that really handle a lot of that, but not necessarily what you have in the plan development. That is still being vetted out by the legal system. Just how that's going to end up, we don't know yet. But there's a lot of debate on it. And hopefully in the next couple of years, that will change. It was really a problematic for, at least for planners, to not be able to plan what you can see out in the real world once the development happens. But once again, I just want to reiterate that the plan development is not going away with this ordinance. This is just looking at the policy, what you want to see overall in the city. If you want to see overall half-acre lots, that can be handled through a plan development.
But if a developer comes in and they're putting all half-acre lots in, what is their incentive to do a plan development? There's nothing causing him to do a plan development, so he's going to do the minimum that he can to get the maximum number of lots. The same number of lots that he would have in a planned development. Because aren't I right that no matter what happens, he cannot get any more lots in a planned development than he would in half-acre lots?
That is correct. However, he can do some unique things in as well as curvilinear streets, amenities that may not be the norm. And
but what's his incentive? Because to do that, if he's got to have all half-acre lots, he's going to lose numbers of lots, which means he's going to lose money, and he's not going to do it.
If your community puts up a product, whether it's a nice planned development with half-acre lots or one that has small lots, it's a community decision what you want to see. Now, In Hazlet, if a developer comes in and they put in 1/2 acre lots and they do some unique things, through a planned development, that's great. But if you stick with just straight streets, trying to max out the 20 square foot lots, another developer will actually do better than he is if he does a unique subdivision, even though it has curvilinear streets and 20,000 acre lots.
Sorry, I don't see it that way.
Yeah. It's what sells across is what's unique instead of living on a straight street raceway. And what you do is you encourage your developers to be more creative than trying to max out their lots.
What if we remove gross density and replace it with planned development? I don't know where this gross density comes in. We always put a PB on property.
Well, the planned development or the gross density is just some ideas that were in the comprehensive plan, and it's mentioned about 7 times in there. Well, it's in there. It's hidden in there in several different places. And it's one of those things where, like I said, when a developer comes into town, if that's not what you want to see in your community, using the gross density where you get into the 12,000 to 8,000 or smaller lots, then you can make that decision. But you make that decision through the planned development.
But when you read this, it doesn't specify that it's planned development. It just says gross density. To me, that means we'll go ahead and stick as many in there. And we won't have anything to say. We're giving you permission to do that. Where if it's a planned development, they need to come before us first to show us their plan. This is not going to show us the plan with the wording gross density.
The current ordinance or the current comprehensive plans doesn't really speak to planned development. It says, it mentions the gross density option, but the law, once again, is what you see, which is the planned development. And no matter what the comprehensive plans, if somebody comes in here and they have a subdivision with 8,000 square foot lots and it makes sense, that doesn't mean you can't approve it.
All they have to do is 1/2 acres through the whole development and just don't have to do anything more or less. You're gonna go with straight zoning, where the P actually, like I said, they have to bring something before us. We may not approve it. We may not like it, so they'll have to go back and do it all over again. We've had that situation happen a couple of times. Back in North Atlantic, it was one of them. He came in first and just did 3 streets with houses and cross streets. That was it. We all looked at it. That's pretty ugly. And then he came back and showed us his planned development, which is what it is today, which was approved. And it still remained 1/2 acre. I'm just a little confused about the wording of gross density versus planned development. That would be a quick fix.
May I? And I can understand the confusion. This gross density lies within the body of planned development. So you're not, this taking gross density out doesn't do away with planned development capability. The gross density option, there's a calculation for, or equation for the gross density option. And let's say I've got a 300 acre tract of land. And if I go in there and go the straight 1/2 acre development, and doesn't mean straight streets, it can be curved streets, but if I take into account in our area anyway, you might have a well or 2 out there, and you may have some flood area, but taking all that into account and, you know, the easements for the streets and water and sewer, I determine I can have 250 homes out here. Now, the next step is a planned development. That'd just be a straight up half-acre development. Under a planned development, the basis would be the number of homes that you can get in a planned development. In this case, this example, 250. But I could go in and design this beautiful greenway and the fountains and things of that nature and community facilities that's built into this subdivision. And with your permission, I would still keep the 250 homes, but they'd have to be on smaller lots. So, follow me so far. I can do with your permission, I can have this greenway and these other amenities, but I get to keep that number of homes and do a smaller lot to fit that number of homes. That's how I get my payback as a developer, right? Now, the gross density option opens up another door altogether. It lets me take that entire 300 acres, divide the minimum lot size of half-acre lots. So how many half-acre lots can I get in 300 acres? 300 divided by 0.5. That's 600. That's 600 homes under gross density option. No, but it's true. Mr. Morris can verify it. He's a plan. You're talking about sweet.
Can't hear you.
Their maximum allowance, are you talking about, speaking of a sweetgrass? I think it was like 590 some odd homes that they would allow. Actually, no, it was more than that. It was because the entire development was 300 plus acres. They could have had, and I'm going to say a nominal 600 homes, but they would have been allowed to have under the gross density option. But they chose, and they had meetings with P&Z and the council, and it was through those conversations. They currently have, I believe it's 498 homes. It's 498 homes. But that was the developer's, not anything that the P&Z or council put on that developer. It was out of y'all's negotiation with them that they came to that number, and that was approved. But what I'm saying is the gross density option opens the door automatically, and you don't have the opportunity to say no, because my policy that I wrote says you now have that option. Now, if you should decide to take out the gross density option, and a developer comes in, and we were speaking formally of a 300-acre development that's not fully developable, and I can get 250 homes in there, I can still come to you and propose, here's this planned development, got all my space, the green space, or beltway, and things of that nature. But in lieu of the 250 homes, I would like to put 312 homes. It just makes things work better for me. I can, it'll be a product that I can sell and come out in a good way. You still have that ability to approve that. You can. It doesn't take away your ability to approve something other than this half-acre minimum. What this change does, it doesn't give them an automatic approval to go in and create a development based on this gross density option in lieu of the 300 or 250 is automatically, I can put up to 600 homes in this thing. Thank you very much. Nothing else to discuss. So that's what this does, is taking out the automatic approval of it. You still, as a body, and the council still, as a body, has the ability under planned development, without the the gross density option to approve something less than half-acre lots. I just wanted to make that clear. Not taking away any of your power, not taking away any of your negotiation capabilities within the city. It just eliminates an automatic approval of high density.
Who act? The public hearing is closed. Even though
You're breaking up quite a bit.
You can't hear anybody talking.
All right, just a moment. So what we'll do, we have closed the public hearing and we'll let you talk, but we may not give you a response. All right.
Okay, so Georgianne Palizzo, I live at 232 Berry Drive in Hazlet. And my question is that we're spending a lot of time with words over why does it matter? Because according to Mr. Holsley, it sounds like it's not going to make a difference anyway, that, you know, people can just get approved. There's my question. Seems like a waste of okay.
Mr. Wallach, please ask Mr. Holsey to clarify that in order for a plan development to come before the P&Z, it has to be a plan development. Anyone can come in with a subdivision plan and go under the straight zoning. But if they want a plan development, that's a different animal. There's no such thing as automatic approval of a plan development.
Yeah, I'd like to address that just a little bit. When you look at section 211.04, which was referenced prior, zoning cases are supposed to be approved in accordance with the comprehensive plan. You're not supposed to go out in left field. So you try to follow the comprehensive plan. Now, if the comprehensive plan says you need to do this, or you can do this, then that opens the gate, like the mayor said. However, if you shut that gate, that does not mean that plan developments can't come forward and you can make those decisions if there are unique things. Because one of the things I noticed the short time I've worked with the city of Hazlet, you have a lot of dead land in your city, wells, all over these subdivisions. Well, that well land, which is set apart, that gets calculated into your overall densities. And that just boosts it up. And so you really, when you take those kind of things out, you take the floodways out, then there are ways to address those things. And through the plan development, you can do things. But just the gross density says, well, you got all these, you got, if you look at, I think it's Sweetgrass, there's about 5 or 6 wells in there where all those acre wells, there's 6 acres of dead land. You can't do anything with it, but yet you get the counted as density. And that's one of the things, you don't really want to do that because that really doesn't add to your city.
Just help me understand something. Does our city ordinance stipulate half-acre lots now? Is there anything that stipulates half-acre lots?
You have basically 3 residential options. You have R2, R1. R2 is your 20,000 square foot lots. R1 is your 1 acre lots. And then you have planned development.
In the ordinance?
In the ordinance.
So I'm understanding this does not, removing gross density does not, obviously does not remove the option of planned development. a developer can come in with a planned development that could have half-acre lots or a combination of sizes of lots, and depending upon decisions made at this board, this commission, to recommend to city council, we may like that development, we may not like that development, and move it forward.
That is correct.
And that's what you guys have done before.
If it's zoned R2, the developer can come in and make as many homes in there that are half acre, and we have no choice but to approve because it's already zoned R2, and then we have no control over anything that he actually puts in, because we're already telling him, yes, it's zoned R2. Go ahead, have at it. So we can't dictate to him, well, we want 90% brick, or the street lights have to be a certain way, even though that's covered under our lighting ordinance now that we put it back. But there's certain things that they don't have to comply by. If it's just zoned R2, they can just come in and do whatever they want on that land. And we sort of have no choice but to accept.
Another city that I worked with quite extensively, we wrote ordinances where for straight zoning, when you come in without even a planned development, you had curvilinear streets. It was a requirement that a certain percentage, 30% of the streets had to be curvilinear. And so you solve that problem. You actually instill in your ordinances the curvilinear.
Which we don't have that now.
That is correct.
The only thing we have is that the street can't be any longer than, I don't know how much feet it is or whatever, but we don't have anything in our plan right now, and there's a lot of things happening in Haslett. So are we gonna do this tomorrow and fix it so that the wording is correct? I don't think so.
Well, it's at the direction of the city council what happens. If they direct the staff to make choices that lead a certain way. But there's also some other things that really come into apply. If your city demands that everything has to be a planned development, there's something wrong with your ordinance.
But that's not what's on our map. Not everything is a planned development.
No.
There's certain things that are straight zoned, and that's the way they are. There's a few things we didn't know what to do with, so they became a PD.
But you can change your subdivision rules and regulations to require things that would not lend itself to straight raceway street. There are all kinds of tools that you can use to do that as a city.
I agree with you, but they're not in place at this time.
They're not in place at this time.
I think if you take this out, it would be a mistake, or maybe just change the wording. Instead of gross density, change it to planned development.
May I? Commissioner Snyder, is that taking this out doesn't, there still is in here planned development. In fact, you have planned development examples in your comprehensive plan, and it's not striking that stays in there. As with regard to a developer coming in and doing straight up half acres in a straight street, they have that capability right now, with or without the gross option. They can do that today. Now, and correcting that is really a different topic besides this gross density option. That's a different topic. And it's good for us to note these down so we can make those changes. But in reality, the biggest, there's not that many more developable acreages around in Haslett anymore. We have 7 on the ground right now. And it's really essentially the last of the large lots to do a development of 600 homes anyway. But that they still have that capability today. That can be corrected, and Mr. Swanky can give the PNC and the council guidance on how to do that easily. But this is, this question here before you, this item here before you, doesn't add or take away with anything with regard to that. That's a different topic. This is purely a question to eliminate a open door that you cannot contest because it meets your policy, your guidelines. What you want to do, this actually gives you more say-so in your plan descent. The plan development aspect still stays. This is not taking plan development out. This is giving you more control over what happens in that plan development. You're not losing the capability to make a decision. If you wanted to do, or so moved somehow by the whatever great job a developer did in design and do an entire subdivision of 5,000 square foot lots, when you take this out, you still have that ability to make those decisions. This does not limit you as a body to make those decisions. This limits an automatic passage to that.
This is Matt Hayes. I have a question as far as the gross density. Are any subdivisions that have been approved, would they have not been approved if this language had been removed?
Hey, Matthew?
Yes.
Restate your question, please.
Yes. In regards to gross density, I know that that's a lot of the discussion here, and I'm following what the mayor has to say. But are any of the developments that have currently been approved, would any of those have not been approved if this gross density had been removed from the ordinance?
They could have all been approved.
So none of them, nothing that has occurred so far has occurred because of the gross density. Right? That's what you're saying. So I can understand, and I understand exactly what the mayor's saying when it comes to, somebody could put 600 houses on a 300 acre. But as the lone member of the board that lives in Caraway, I mean, I moved to Hazlet because of Caraway. I lived on a greater than half acre lot before. And I moved here to Hazlet because it offered a planned development that fit what I wanted at this stage of my life. So I think, a lot of, I understand what you're saying with there is no absolute limit for half acre lots. But I don't know if just the thought of the gross density, that people don't fully understand what that means. If changing it from a half acre to a full acre would make a difference.
So I guess your question is the developments that have been approved to date, let's say the Caraway and Sweetgrass are those. Without the gross density option in the comprehensive plan, could those have been approved anyhow, or could they have been disapproved?
Well, according to what they said, they would have been approved anyways.
Well, maybe not.
The gross option density wise actually makes it easier for you to do that, approve them. However, if it's not in there, that does not mean you wouldn't approve it.
I think what I'm hearing you say is it basically, if a developer came in under a planned development with less than, right now it's 20,000 square foot, I guess, which is not quite a half acre, but call them half acre lots. We still have the option to look at that, and if we like that layout and like that development, and it has eye appeal, and we've got the right eye candy in it or whatever, that we could recommend to city council that they move forward with that development, correct?
That is correct.
All right. So that doesn't preclude us from approving Mr. Smith to come in with 100 acres out here, if he had one, and wanted to put in X number, something less than 200 homes, or maybe more than 200 homes, but it looked good. And he had amenities and curvilinear streets and parks and things like that.
That's correct. He could do that. And developers will do what they need to do to really fit the market. If the market out here is for 1 acre lots or 2 acre lots, then that's what they'll ask for.
But by removing this wording, we're basically not letting him walk in here and say, I can do that because it says I can.
That is correct. When you have your you're supposed to follow your comprehensive plan with your zoning. And if you don't follow your comprehensive plan, then you need to redo your comprehensive plan or make adjustments in it. And that's what this is, attempt to make a little minor fix to the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so may give us a little more latitude. Possibly.
It gives the commission and the city council a lot more latitude and takes a little bit away from the developer.
All right.
Is there any background on why that was put in to begin with? Do we have any history on that?
Wait.
Is there any background on why gross density was added to the comprehensive plan when it was written?
Yeah, can't hear the response.
It was before me, so I cannot address that question.
Mr. Mayor.
I can give you some background on it by, what the motivations were. I think probably one of the, to make a long story short, it was to increase the population of Haslett. And the term, it was determined to, and the reason for increasing the population of Haslett was to attract retail. That was the motivation. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's the background of it. And in short, that's the why it got in there.
This is Brian Flaxbert. Can I ask one follow-up as well?
If you folks that are on chat there, would you please mute yourself? There we go. Thank you, Brian.
I have a technical question on the editing of the comprehensive plan there. So what's being put forward here is just the removal of those two words solely wherever they appear and no other editing to the surrounding words of any sort?
Yeah, we'll work that out. We won't, if there was a complete sentence that talks about that, we'd probably delete that sentence. So it's just not those two words. There might be some other verbiage around it. But
it won't affect any of the other sections that are not related to it directly?
No.
Would it be possible that we go, if we were to put this forward, to go to a draft first for review before we approve it?
That before we change the comprehensive plan, after it goes through and the recommendations are made, then yes, it would come through the process.
You can actually state that in a motion to ask them to draft it first before it is approved.
I can't quite hear you.
Are there any other, anybody else want to participate in this discussion from the commission here, not the public, the commission?
Yes, Brian Flaxpert again. I want to
Brian.
follow this up.
All
If,
right,
if
Brian.
I understand all this discussion so far, if we leave this gross density option language in the comprehensive plan, that biases us or guides us as a committee towards the less than half acre options. If we approve this 4A and remove the gross density option, it guides and biases us as a committee towards preserving the half acre. Is that a correct assumption and understanding?
Yes, sir.
Well,
Okay, thank you.
it guides us toward it, Brian, but it gives us the option to consider other development schemes. Once again, do I have any other comments from the commission, or questions, or motion? Do we have a motion?
Well, let me try the motion here. I motion that we amend the comprehensive plan from 2016 to remove the gross density option references within it and put forward a draft for review of the council and for the commission to review before final approval.
I'll second that.
Yeah, Brian seconds it. Okay. Any other questions or any other comments before we take a vote? I know I have a motion. All right. Mr. Marcus. All right, let's.
Can't hear the speaker.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the motion, Mr. Chairman. You're making a motion to approve, but you're requesting a draft before final approval. A comprehensive plan. Okay, I understand. Okay, forgive me, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So you will then bring back a markup of the plan that we can review the changes that have been made, the sentences and the words deleted, and those might maybe added, etc.
If the city council approves it before the changes and we go through the comprehensive plan and we get it all marked up, taking those verbiage out, we'll bring the comprehensive back to you for a recommendation.
Is that satisfactory?
I don't know, now I'm confused after what he just said.
We're going to review Mr. Swanky, can you clarify that? I think what we're asking is before this goes to council, that you bring a markup plan back here for us to review, look at the comprehensive plan as amended, then we'll act on it, and if we then recommend approval, then it goes to city council for final approval. I think that's what. We are not approving it tonight. We are asking him to bring a draft, a marked up plan to us.
Yeah, what you need to do is amend your motion and then just basically table this tonight, and then we'll bring back the next meeting with the markup.
Too, so if somebody wants to make. Okay, hold on. We've had a motion and a second. Didn't we get a second? Okay.
I would recommend that you hold the vote and just vote deny it,
vote no,
then make another motion.
I was going to say we could vote no on that motion. So if we vote no on that motion, then we would move on to another motion. That kills that first motion. All right. So the first motion made by Mr. Markison. Let's take a vote. Jim?
I'll vote no on my own motion.
Janet? No. Doreen?
No.
And I'm a no. So that kills that motion. Oh, Brian, I'm sorry. Brian? All right.
I'll vote no as well on my own second.
If I can't see you, I can't call on you here. I got to keep remembering where you are on my screen. Now, we have a new motion.
All right. we'll table this action as presented now and make a motion to draft a revision to the comprehensive plan from 2016 that incorporates the deletion of the gross density option, and it will be presented to us for further review before we have final vote on it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. A vote. So, Jim?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Noreen?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And Paul is a yes. So thank you. So if you will bring a draft back to us, we will have it in time to look it over. I suppose I'm talking about a draft. Are we talking about redlining what's in there now and then what you're going to add to it? What I'm used to seeing is a draft. Okay. Very good. Okay, let's move on to item 4B. Item 4B is hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act regarding approving an ordinance changing the zoning classification of approximately 17.64 acre parcel of property known as 1204 FM 156 South from GC General Commercial to R2 Residential Suburban Density 2. Our first item on that is staff presentation.
Yeah, Chairman Wallach and members of the commission, this is a case that's been brought forward and initiated by the city. I want to point out that in the caption you just read, there's 17.64 acres, but when you read the staff report, it says 13.4. And the reason for that, the whole ownership was looked at, but portion of it on the west side is in the ETJ, and so not really a part of this. And so there's why that.
The back end.
Anything is, when you approve something less, it's fine. But this particular item, if we could get the location map on the screen, there's a new subdivision that's being done right to the south of it called Belgrande, which you've looked at just recently, and it's a subdivision that has approximately 32 lots in it. And then there's this tract of the 13.4 acres inside the city, and then just to the north of that is a church, the Heritage Baptist Church. This is a long, skinny tract that's inserted between the church and a residential subdivision. And you can do a myriad of uses within that zone that are not compatible with single-family residential development or churches. And if I can pass this around, I marked up a little exhibit that has all the different things that you can do. They're in yellow. And there's something, there's like animal clinics, and there's a lot of some car repairs, things like that, some very noisy activity. There's some things that are compatible, but there's a lot of things that are not compatible. And when you have that many acres, then it's not very good. But what we're recommending is that you actually rezone that property from GC to R2 to make it compatible with the neighborhood. There's your map right there. If you can look at that, the property to the south is the Belgrande, which within 200 feet, most of those lots on the north side of Belgrande Avenue are in that, and then on the north side is the church, and you can see that little area to the west, which is in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. It is a little bit different. Having said that, that's our staff presentation. If you have any questions to me, I'd be more than happy to try to answer.
No, at this time, we will open a public hearing on that at 8:04. So if anybody wishes to speak in favor of or against this item number 4B, please come forward to the podium and state your name and your address. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. My name is Glenn Foltz. I'm the owner of this. We used to be a garden center. We were located here before there was any housing on the left side of us or churching on the right side of us. I stood in front of this council years and years and years ago to get this property changed to commercial and stuff. And therefore, I don't really understand why we're trying to change it. Am I not mistaken? I just heard from this gentleman right here that we want to take half-acre lots and squeeze them down so that we can put more development within a neighborhood and make it so that the builder can still make his money. So we're going to get businesses. So we want businesses is what we want to be able to do to provide all the houses that are being built now. So we're going to take away a prime piece of property that can be had restaurants, little stores, little convenience stuff, more than enough room to have a nice strip shopping center for all the different people around to come in, rather than put in more houses, because we have kind of the same issue that you guys just talked to a minute ago about the well breaking up the property. The 4+ acres on the back of it, county taking up the property, which you can't rezone, I don't believe. So I'm not understanding why we're even here talking about rezoning my piece of property so that you can take my land that and my mother's land, who's 80 years old, and change it from, let's go for a base number of $100,000 an acre to $50,000 an acre to the builders that are built next door to us that I've already had talks with and talked to. But you come and talk to him in regards to doing this, to force basically this in our throat, to sell our property for minimum in comparison to what it could be sold. So he wants to go ahead and take the property, from his words himself, to my mother and turn it all residential, but the front half of it will be some strange word. What was the word that you used? Where it's not commercial, but you can still build commercial in it. He's got a strange word for this. I don't know. It's kind of like the other word I just heard. So, and I'm not understanding it at all, why anybody should be able to come in and just change the zoning on my property so I can't sell it commercially. I do understand that there's houses and that nobody wants to have automotive stuff, but already we've had people come to buy our piece of property, look at it, come to council, and some of the things that are on the sheet that he just said have already been denied through the planning and development, which needs to stay 100%. And the half-acre lots need to stay 100%. So that's what I have to say. I just really think it is wrong that people like him can come here with him and pick on people and change things that are going to have no reference to it. Like, he doesn't want to change the highway from a 6-lane to a 3-lane because it's going to take the front part of his property. That's why he doesn't want to have the highway come through there. I want the highway to come through there because you know why? It makes my property worth well more money for a business to come in and buy it. That's kind of what I got to say about it. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that would like, from the audience, to speak to item 4B? Mr. Rich.
My name is Pat Ritchie. I live at 404 Blue Mountain Road. I've been associated with the council and P&Z for the last 20 years and around. And I remember when all those 20-acre lots over there were first zoned commercial, okay, put on the zoning map as commercial. And then the church came in, and the council couldn't help itself but build a church. What a nice church we got, and a great pastor. So, but I was against it, believe it or not. So that was a 20-acre commercial lot gone. And somebody came along and decided that they needed to put houses on this other commercial lot, and it got rezoned from commercial to R2. All right. So somebody in the infamous wisdom of Haslett did that. All right. So now Haslett's coming along and telling a landowner that we're going to change your zoning without your permission because we want to do something with your land. We want something other than what you want to do with it. All right. That's wrong. All right. First of all, it's a taking. All right. If you approve this, I've got a feeling the difference between commercial property and what he can get for his real estate property, for homes, the difference in that is called a taking. Okay. I'm not a lawyer, but I think it opens you up immensely for stuff like that. All right. So you got to be really careful when you're messing with this zoning stuff. Think about what you're doing. We've never in the history, I called Warren Robb and I asked him, I said, in your mind, have you ever remembered us as a city changing somebody's zoning without them asking for it? I couldn't. Warren Robb came in. Warren Robb was on the P&Z before I was ever on. Okay? So, and he's been on the council for 30 years, I guess. I don't know how long Warren's been on it. But it's never happened before. So this is a first-time precedent for this city. All right? I'm just saying. Think about what you're doing. Thank you.
Okay, Georgianne Palizzo, 232 Berry Drive. A couple of things. First, when I was young, I remember the Northeast Mall. Those of you who have been around as long as I have know what that is. And them taking over the property and me thinking I was appalled that they were taking land from these elderly people who were probably what my age is now. But I just thought how cold it was that the city was doing that so they could make some money and taking people's property. It just seemed so wrong. And now I see Miss Foltz, who, like Glenn said, she's 80, an elderly person who has worked her whole life on this, has lost her husband, and now has plans for her retirement, for her children. And we as a city are trying to take that away from her, and it just seems wrong. The other thing is, when I first moved here, I was still kind of young. So that if 30 is young, I don't know if that is anymore. But there was some property on 156. They were selling for $60,000. It's now listed for over $1 million. I went up to the city, and those of you who've been here a while know, I think her name was Sally, that used to work here. Told me absolutely no, would this ever go commercial? No way. And so I talked my husband out of buying that property because I didn't want to fight the small town. And I loved our little small town that we have moved away from, all the way from Keller, where it was crazy, to this little country town. Okay. Now I see that we're going to make it 6 lanes, which, would help their business, but that's crazy. There goes the small town, but we're doing it, okay? The other thing that I learned tonight is residential R2. That was a new term for me, and pretty much that, from what I understand, it means that there's less approval that's needed from the city council or whatever, that it's easier for them to go in and build. So we are going to take someone's property, open it up to what I moved from in Keller, and that upsets me. So all with the purpose, and I'm going to quote here, to increase the population and attract retail. So you're wanting to attract retail, and yet you're taking the commercial land that could serve as great retail. Right now, my husband and I, we have date night every Saturday. And we go all the way to Roanoke or Keller, and we put our money there because there's not a steakhouse, There's, not any live band and even a small pub. There's nothing here for entertainment. And we want to take some commercial land that would be ideal for that. It would serve all these millions of houses, it feels like, that have moved in so that those people can put their money back into our own city. They would feel entertained, they'd be close. It would also attract people from other cities because, like I said, I go to Keller, to Roanoke, to Lake Worth, and some of those people would come here and bring their money to us here. So that's something that we have to consider. We need to respect the elderly. We need to honor what we've already done and just look at the opportunities that are there. Don't bring in some R2 land that's going to bring in a bunch of houses and nothing to serve them. So that's what I've got. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like, right?
Hi, Alberta Cutts, 302 Blue Mound Road East. I just have to echo what we've heard before. And we're all here because we love Hazlitt and we're very concerned on how it's developed. And looking at that zoning location map there and that beautiful orange triangle, you see that frontage road that's right on Highway 156. And it does not make sense to me that you're going to take that entire parcel of land from commercial and turn it residential. You're stripping the owner of her right to be able to sell that property as commercial. And if that doesn't bother you, I'm afraid that I'm very disappointed. But thank you for having this public time open for us. Thank you.
My name is Luke Mccallum. I'm a real estate broker that represents the Fultz family. And it's been a pleasure just kind of getting to know them and their history over the last period of time that I've represented them. And I know that they've been a part of this community for probably going on 30 years. And they've poured a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into just what's their lifetime work. Right there on 1204 South 156. So absolutely, from their perspective, and of course there are a lot of different perspectives to consider here, right? What this means for this family, what this means for the city and their citizens, but I can confirm for certain that what this means for this family is a substantial loss of what the value of their property is. And Glenn mentioned something of along the lines of half, but I'm here to tell you it's more than half. Absolutely, in terms of value and what this property could bring. And Glenn mentioned that they stood before this council and lobbied and did the work to make this piece of property zoned general commercial so they could be a service to this community. So it's perplexing when you consider all of this history and then you consider the undeniable pulse of the community. When you hear people through the first part of this presentation and hearing, it's undeniable that they're looking for a quality of life that involves less congestion. So to introduce something that all of a sudden introduces more congestion right into the heart of the city, I just can't see how that's any kind of a solution. And another person that spoke also mentioned that absolutely, these citizens are underserved as far as what I can tell. I think it's undeniable in terms of just basic community amenities. They have to drive for quite a distance to have a bank. They have to drive for quite a distance to go for dining and all kinds of different things. So these are things that put people on the road for a long amount of time. When you're driving in your car for half an hour to go do something, when you could have just driven 5 minutes down the road, that affects your quality of life. So I think these are things that the commission should consider, and I would encourage you guys to vote no for this proposition. Thank you.
My name's Eric Crawford. I'm resident as well, 114 Brentwood Lane, and then also the pastor, Heritage Baptist Church, since its inception. So we've been here 20 years. And so I was at the meeting with Mr. Ritchie when the city council narrowly passed the rezoning of that property for us. It was 3-2 vote. And I'm thankful that shortly after that, there were some laws put in place where cities couldn't do that to churches anymore. But anyway, couldn't deny. In other words, churches can go in basically anywhere. Anyway, so Ms. Foltz has been a blessing to us, Mr. Foltz as well. We've hugged Ms. Foltz's neck many, many times, helped them over the years. Have been a good friend, I believe, and done our very best to do so. I do want to say, just by comment, I think, you know, when the Foltz wall was built, we didn't say a thing. Some of y'all know what that means. And tonight, I would say to you, I would like to see us be very careful what goes in there. And as we have, again, houses on one side, church on one side, certainly wouldn't want to, you know, a cement mixing company there, or, you know, something like that. Something that's very noisy, something that would be noisy on a Sunday, and so forth. So I appreciate you guys and at least taking this opportunity to listen and to the citizens.
Is someone speaking?
Wait, Glenn.
I would just like to know that, because I don't understand.
Who are you talking to? Oh, Glenn. He's a consultant hired by the city. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to, in the room audience, that would like to speak to this? Apparently there is.
Yeah, I like to see that we have some businesses come in here that every family people can enjoy, and not tattoo parlors and smoke shops and stripper clubs. And
Would you please state your name and
I'm Paul
address?
Palizzo, 232 Berry Drive. So yeah, I like to see some nice business, family-oriented businesses come in here that, yeah, other than housing developments. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the room that would like to speak to this item number 4B? All right, is there anybody online that would like to speak to item 4B?
I signed up to speak. Paul?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Patricia
Wait,
Hilborn,
Patricia?
2207.
Patricia,
Yes.
Patricia, just a minute. Go ahead, Patricia.
Thank you. Patricia Hilborn, 2207 Virginia Lane. This item, which forces a zoning change on a longtime Haslett property owner, should be denied. It has been initiated by the city of Haslett, not by the property owner. The property owner is adamantly opposed to this zoning change. They own prime commercial real estate fronting a state highway, and they want the current zoning to remain in place. This request stinks of down zoning, which leads to a lowering of property values to the detriment of the property owner. The change will potentially bring more residential units to Haslett with an entrance onto State Highway 156. How would that be an improvement over the current zoning regarding traffic or safety? Lastly, the executive summary states that the general commercial designation on this property is incompatible with property uses on the north and south of the property. But the Foltzes have been here since 1983, much earlier than either of the property uses on either side of them. And there is other commercial property up and down State Highway 156, including directly across the road from the church. This zoning change is not what Haslett is, not what we stand for. It's not how we treat our property owners. Please vote no. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the chat room or teleconference room that would like to speak to this? I think we have.
Yes. Is there the city secretary to read notes?
Okay, Ms. Wertz, just a minute. Are you?
Yes, sir.
We're going to
Yes.
read. Do you have some emails there?
Yes, sir.
All right. City secretary is going to read some emails. Is yours one of them?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Wertz, okay. She'll read that into the record. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. First response from Lisa McLeod. An ordinance changing the zoning classification of an approximate 14.64 acre of property known as 1204 FM 156 South, previously also known as Foltz Nursery, from GC General Commercial to R2 Residential Suburban Density 2 should be approved. There is new R2 residential housing already being built to the north of this property. There are no other commercial on the west side of FM 156 in this area. There is a church and then additional housing to the north of this location. A GC zoning is incompatible with both the church and nearby residential subdivision and housing. Therefore, agenda item 4B should be approved. Second one is from Kitty Wertz. As a concerned citizen of Haslett, I would like it to be known I am in favor of changing the zoning classification. An ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the city of Haslett, Texas, by changing the zoning classification of an approximate 14.614 acre parcel of property, commonly known as 1204 FM 156 South, from general commercial CG to residential suburban density to R2 half-acre lots. This is the Foltz property located at 1204 FM 156 South. The GC General Commercial Zoning District abuts the Heritage Baptist Church on the north and the Belgrande residential subdivision to the south. The current zoning is incompatible with both the church and residential subdivision and therefore necessitating the zoning change from GC to R2. I am in favor of this change. Next one is from Christine Hulsey. I'm in writing in agreement with item 4B, changing the zoning from general commercial to R2 residential half-acre lots for the property on FM 156 known as Foltz Nursery. This acreage is bordered by homes to the south and Heritage Baptist Church to the north. It would be a horrible option to have it developed into commercial anything. Residents of the new homes in Belgrande Estates should not have to deal with living next to an Autoport store, for example. Neither should Heritage Baptist Church and their K-12 school. Please vote in favor of changing the zoning to R2 residential half-acre lots for this property. The last one is from Kathy Brandon. I agree with this recommendation and hope that you will vote in favor. The property known as Foltz Nursery should be zoned R2. The property has been for sale as GC for years and remained unsold. As you know, there are no commercial businesses on that side of FM 156, only a nearby church. A commercial business is not a fit. It should be zoned residential as there are residences nearby plus a new residential development in process. It is best suited for residential purposes. That is all that I received.
Okay, Thank you. Is there anybody else on teleconference that would like to speak to this item, 4B?
Hello, my name is Joette Teen, 1410 Poppy Drive. I live in the Meadow, and I appreciate the concern for the citizen that owns the property. I truly do. As I know, this property has been for sale for quite some time without any movement on that property. And during that period, obviously, housing developments have gone around it. The most recent being Belle Grand, that is going to be built in very close proximity to this property. And my concerns really are several things. When you have a business, you know, the mention of a strip mall is worrisome. You invite crime, you invite trash from people who are not very considerate. You invite noise, you invite increased traffic turning into shopping areas, and you may have lights. As a deterrent to that crime, you could have lights that are on 24/7. All of those things concern me. If this were to remain zoned as it is, and it would seem much preferable. I'm not talking from a financial perspective of the current property owner, but from the community, it would be much more preferential to zone this R2 and have them held at half-acre lots. That's just my opinion. And I might add, if they've already had offers or discussions with developers, you know, that might be a good indication that they would have an opportunity to actually sell the property that has been for sale for quite a period of time with no buyers.
Go ahead, Lynn. You want to address the question she had? Yeah, get up to the mic and tell us who you are again.
I would like to say
who
that
are you again? Just say
my name is Glenn Foltz. I'm the partial owner of Foltz & Son Garden Center.
Right.
I'd like to say that the property has been for sale for a long time, and we've had multiple people want to buy the piece of property prior to the housing development, not the church, but the housing development. But the city council, I don't know if it was all of you guys or not, has turned it down and not allowed anything to go in there to be sold. So it's not that our location hasn't drawn interest in people wanting to buy it. It's that the city will not allow a general commercial type development to even go in there before they even built the houses next to us. So then they built the housing development next to us, so they're kind of forcing that.
Well, all right, and that was one of my questions I was going to ask. So let me ask you. You say that you've had offers on it. You brought it to city council.
Oh yes. Here's some. Real estate person before that brought it to city council. We have had 2 different people come in that were wanting to buy it, come down to the city council with their lawyers, and got told that basically that would not be acceptable to build there. One of them was in the vet type world, who wanted to build an equestrian center there, and you guys would not allow it to happen. I don't believe you were part of any of that. But there was an equestrian center wanted to build there. But that equestrian center was told to us that it couldn't be done because it is considered heavy commercial, not GE. So that's the parts I'm not understanding, is that it's not a lack that our property would not have been sold. It's the lack that the city hasn't allowed anything to be brought into it and be built. Other nurseries, loading development. Now, we had a couple of people that I can understand, nobody wants a container development in the middle of their thing. I understand nobody wants a bunch of noisy bars, but I don't see how a shopping center like across the street is going to bring in negativity, bring in thievery. How would that do that? How would that do that? And if you build approximately, what did you tell me how many houses were built on the land next door to us? 33? 32, so you can build, somewhere around 25 maybe houses on there. They're going to bail out every morning onto the highway, come in every night, go back and forth.
Is there anybody else on teleconference that wants to speak to item 4B? At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing on item 4B, and it is 8:35.
I have a question. Didn't general commercial go away and become general business? I don't think we use that term in general commercial. I couldn't find it. But in our ordinances, I have a different copy that shows general business. And I thought we got rid of that and it became general business. So I'm not sure 100% if that's correct or not, it would be the same terminology. It's just the uses are actually specified under general business, and I think they're a little different than what you show under commercial. So I think that should be cleared up first. I know that it says it on our zoning map, yeah, but I think it was changed, and obviously it may have been somehow dropped and never changed on the map. I'm not sure. At one of our meetings, when we went through our zoning districts and changed some wording, I think it became general business and commercial went away. It actually shows the uses and the types of businesses of the change. It was a while ago. I don't know. And to you, and I apologize to you, Mr. Fultz. I've been on the board quite a long time. I have never seen anything come before this board regarding Fultz and Son. Never, ever.
Mr. Mayor.
It came out of
someone
our
speaking?
Who's that? It came out of our Haslett zoning descriptions. That's where I got it from, online. Yes, sir. Unless it was switched the other way around. Maybe it was business and then it went to commercial. So then this shouldn't even be in there as a document. And there, I noticed that there's a lot of other discrepancies within our. Not only that, it's very hard to find things.
Please use your microphones.
Hit your microphone.
Just to recap, the general business, that ordinance that Commissioner Snyder was showing me was adopted in June of 1987. It's an older document from the city of Haslett, and it sounds like a document that was inadvertently left on the website and should have been taken down. There is a lot of house cleaning that needs to be done with that website and make things more easily found. Duly noted. Mr. Swanke has studied our current ordinances quite extensively, and what we now have is general commercial. And I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, and the commission, that you follow Mr. Swanke's guidance with regard to what we currently have.
Yeah, I'm sure he's right on that. So, you have a comment?
Yeah, just a couple questions of clarification. You know, the gentleman, Mr. Foltz, said that they were denied horse stuff, which I can understand because it's not allowed in the general commercial district. It's one of those things that it's blank. So just to clear that up. So if that did come before the staff, they would have said no.
The what now? The equestrian?
Yes.
Oh, so that the staff may have
Yeah, it
turned that down before.
even if it came up to the council and asked them, it's not an allowable use under the use chart.
Maybe you weren't aware of that. Well, it can be if it's not allowed in that district. I mean, then the staff turns it down before it even gets here, before it gets to council, and maybe those things happen. I have a question. So when was this? Do we know when this was zoned general commercial? Does anybody have any idea? 83? Who said that? You did?
Please use the microphone.
Yeah, I came down, my name's Glenn Foltz with Foltz and Son Garden Center, and my mom, Pauline. Yeah, I came down here, I believe it was in 1983. We bought it from the boxes. I drew plans, I showed them what we wanted to build. We didn't like this, we drew some more plans, made it set, went through the Planning and Zoning Commission, just like what you guys, which should stay intact so that you can control it, which would be still intact if we sell it as light commercial, to take care of all of it. So I did everything like what you guys want. Now, a bunch of plans have come in, and I'm sure that some of it hasn't, but some of it has been light commercial, and it gets shut down up at the front office. It hasn't been brought in front of the council. So I'm sure that's what's going on. But as far as contracts go, like I say, the property has been entertained multiple times. Just very recently was turned down by individuals from the council.
All right. So 83. I have, and you don't have an answer to this, and I'm not sure who might, unless it's here. The developer for Belgrade. Well, it was the developer for the Belgrande estate. When he brought his plans forth to planning and zoning, or you weren't on council then, but did he have any concerns or questions about the general commercial to his north, the nursery, and noise, etc., to his properties backing up to it?
I actually wasn't here for that, but I don't know, I don't see why he would. I mean, they would have to know what it was. They would have to know what it was when they came to develop that property, that it was zoned commercial, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, he obviously knew it was general commercial. I mean, and he still bought the property and put 32 homes out there, knowing that half of them are going to back up to that commercial. All right. I have another question. Are there other options in our ordinance, zoning ordinance, to consider for this property other than residential that would be more palatable to the current owner? Maybe. General business.
There's a couple things. One of there's the nature of the property being so deep for commercial, but there's a neighborhood commercial which is a lot less. And it also could be just on the more of the frontage rather than the rear, where you have, right now the way it's zoned, a regular sit-down restaurant is about an acre in land. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. So on this piece of property, of 13 acres, you could potentially have 13 restaurants on there. And those kind of things, well, you might think, yeah, it's going to create a lot of traffic if that's what happens in there. Your restaurants create traffic. And also there's nighttime dumpster runs, dumping them, trash removal. Those things don't want to happen during business hours, so those things usually happen. So there are some things that happen as far as the total thing being commercial, because there's a whole list of things that you could put back there that are they're not compatible. And I can run through a list of them. And something was mentioned about a tattoo store. Well, that can be there. Beer and wine sales could be there. So those kind of things could be in between the church and the residential lots.
Actually, for alcohol sales, it has to be further than 1,000 feet from school or church. So I'm not sure. I guess they could put it on the residential side, but but it has to be at least 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
All right. So my question was, there are other options other than residential that might be more palatable to the owner?
Potentially.
I kind of like this general business thing, but we don't know what that is.
I have what it is, what you're allowed, but it's potentially the same thing as general commercial. I mean, you're allowed to have art galleries, banks, financial institutions, business college, limited to teaching of office and business practices and skills, church, lunchroom, tea rooms, restaurants, excluding drive-ins, floral shop, gift shop. I mean, it's all library, recreational use, retail store, service station, transportation terminal for passage, service, air, or bus rail, which we wouldn't have that. And then there's other guidelines for if they noise and lighting and odors. So, I mean, it's a long list, but I don't have the copy that he has to show what is actually included in the general commercial.
How about they talked about a concrete mixing plant? Would that be allowed in the that's not one of the uses that would be allowed under general commercial. Okay, because that's more industrial, I would think.
That would be correct.
I mean, even the pastor had mentioned that. We don't want a concrete plant, things like that. All right. Understandable.
Okay, yeah, sure. My name is Glenn Fultz with Fultz and Son Garden Center. Okay, so when we build a whole lot of houses that are going to bank up against the church wall, right? So now, I just heard her say lighting. So now we're going to already have massive lighting on the church sides that blows light all over up against into people's backyards because the lights are way up in the air. They teach a school. Very good for our community. But the children get out every day during the lunch times, during the end of the school day, during Saturdays and Sundays they have events. They make a lot of noise. A lot of noise. So if I went in and I potentially bought a $450,000 house, I really wouldn't want to be next to the church due to the fact of the lights and the lots of noise. And I know this because I live next to a baseball park that got stuffed down our throats, that I want to go out in my backyard on Saturday after I worked hard and not hear nothing all day long. And I try to be nice to the kids and stuff because they know me and they knew me from the garden center. They all run up to the thing. They pet my donkey. So, but that's, not everybody's going to want that up against their house. So we're kind of in a conflicted interest here about what you're saying.
Mike? We can't
Are
hear
there
anything.
any other, we got it, Patricia. I got it. Thank you. Are there anybody else from the teleconference that would like to? Oh yeah, that's right. We're in discussion. Anybody else on the board, on the commission that wants to talk? Thank you for correcting.
I actually have a comment as a citizen of Haslett, not as a board member. I'm actually appalled that somebody can point their finger at a map and say, I don't like that, let's change the zone.
Okay. In that case, then item 4, consider an action on the recommendation. So do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion and recommend to City Council the denial of the zoning change, to leave it as is.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Who did it? Dennis? Yeah. Okay, let's take a vote. Mr. Hilborn? No, or I guess. Yes. Okay. You voted yes for that motion. Ms. Snedeker?
Yes.
Mr. Marcus?
Yes.
Brad Flashboard? Brian?
Yes.
Brian Flashboard. And I'm a yes. So motion passes to recommend to council that they disapprove this this consideration of changing the ordinance or changing the zoning on that piece of property. All right. Item 4, and that's item 4C. Okay, item 4C is hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act regarding approving an ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the City of Haslett, Texas, section 4.2.5H, entitled Additional Use Standards for Commercial Use relating to the regulations of gasoline sales pumps. Staff presentation.
Chairman Wallach and members of the commission, this is an adjustment to an existing ordinance regarding the distance that you have to be away from a residential house, property, or use for gasoline pumps if you're going to sell. And so it increases it up to a distance of 600 feet. And the staff has looked at this, and we want to see it, make sure we can control what goes up and down, especially 156 where you have a lot of residential uses. And we've had some cases recently where they were actually proposing some gasoline sales and right along 156. And this actually boosts that ordinance up a little bit. To, if you're going to have it, it just needs to be away from residential uses. That's it.
Is there anybody in the building that wishes to address item 4C on the agenda? Not seeing any, then is there anybody on teleconference that wishes to address item 4C on the agenda?
I do. Do I have the floor?
Yes, ma'am, you do.
Okay, hi. This is Patricia Hilborn, 2207 Virginia Lane. I'm wishing to speak against this change. This requested change to the comprehensive zoning ordinance, which limits future growth in our city, should be denied. The change requested virtually assures that no new gas stations will be built in Haslett. Additionally, the proposed ordinance amendments that are shown on an attachment to your agenda, but not included in the executive summary, removes the allowance for property owners in multi-use special districts to add gas stations to their mix of uses, such as convenience stores and grocery stores. I agree, Haslett is not the town it was in 1986 when I moved here. But new growth and new businesses have enhanced my city, not hurt it, not harmed it. This request is another tool to inhibit growth in the city. Vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hilborn. There's nobody else. All right.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hilborn, but I disagree.
Can you identify yourself, please, and your address?
Gary Holloway. I disagree that all the commercial growth for this city has been detrimental to our city. I like the commercial growth to some extent, but I think it's to our detriment to incorporate gas stations and grocery stores and such. So I'm adverse to those kinds of things to our area. We have Walmart accessible to us, and we have gas stations already here. I moved here 33 years ago, and I do not believe that we need more commercial in our small city to make things better. I'm sorry, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Holloway, and you don't have to apologize. Is there anybody else?
Well, I've spoken to every other item. This is Joette Keene again.
Very good.
My concern for this, and I agree that it should be changed, I think this is a safety issue. It's not to limit development within Hazlet. It's not to prevent additional commercial. You know, we have a whole section where there is commercial items being built further along 156 toward the park and toward Old Town. But to have a gas station within 600 feet of a residential area with the light, with the traffic, with the danger potentially of that, I think just doesn't make sense. And so therefore, I think this is a good change and one that protects the citizens of Hazlet and is not going to limit our growth in that way.
Thank you, Ms. King. Anybody else on GoToMeeting or on the teleconference wants to speak?
Yes, this is Kitty Wertz at 205 Thistle Drive, and I'd like to agree with what Ms. Keene just said. I think it's a safety factor. I don't know of anyone who wants a gas station right next to their home within that close proximity. It is dangerous. There's crime element that is brought into the city in this type of situation, and I'm in favor of there not being gas stations that close to residential areas.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ford. Anybody else that wishes to speak for or against? Thank you very much. I'm going to close this public hearing on item 4C at 9:01. So, discussion on the commission.
So where does the number 600 come from? What drives it to be 600 feet? I mean, gas stations don't typically blow up and catch on fire. They seem to be fairly safe businesses. What drives the 600 feet?
It's pretty much an arbitrary number just to get it away from the residents. We feel is a safe distance, and it also controls a little bit where they can be put. And most of the general commercial where you're going to find gas stations are going to be along the 35 frontage, and that's what this ordinance does. It sort of drives them over where commercial businesses should be, rather than interior along 156 where you have a lot of single family development. Because there is some commercial as you further north you go on, from Blue Mound Road, it's pretty much residential there, but as you go further north, there are some commercial spots with small strips of general commercial where you can do gas pumps, but immediately behind them are single family homes. So really what this does, it precludes those from developing later on with gas pumps.
And this, of course, is for new business, new gas stations.
New gas stations.
Yeah, the ones are grandfathered in.
They're grandfathered in. It does not affect them at all.
In a way, it does. If the Texaco, Kevin's place, if that burns to the ground, he has to abide by the new standard of 600 feet. So I don't think he'd be able to rebuild on that property. I don't know how far it is from the first house, but would that not affect him?
Always, something burns to the ground, there are provisions in your ordinance, and I'd have to go back and research it, just what you could do, but normally there is a percentage number. If something burns to the ground and it's non-conforming, then there could be something like that. But right now, he has a legal non-conforming use, and I don't know what the distances are for residential around there. I know he owns the lot behind his place, and it's at least several hundred feet for sure.
What is the current distance that's written in the ordinance, and how is it measured?
There is no distance. It just says it cannot be built adjacent, right next to a home, a residence.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
if I had here's a home, then an empty lot, I can build next to the empty lot, but I could be 50 feet or 100 feet from that residence still. It's just it just says cannot build adjacent to a residence. There is no distance.
Okay, and how would it be measured? Like to the nearest point of the gas pump, or to their property line?
To the canopy, to the property line.
Okay.
The canopy of the station to the property line of the residential.
No, I mean, I understand to the property line of the residential, but is it to the gas station's property line or to the
Canopy.
nearest pump? Okay. Okay, so their drive would be excluded, would be taken into that 600 feet.
Yes. And one of the things that really drives this, we had a request for some GC property that was adjacent to a residential structure. And they came and they said, well, we want to plat a little lot strip in between. And, you know, in my response to him, it might have been a little bit ugly to him. I said, you can't do a development on a little bitty strip. It's an unbuildable lot. So I don't want to see it. Because they were wanting to do it just to skirt the ordinance. Well, this prevents them from skirting the ordinance by doing something like that, and makes them, there's a real distance that you have to be.
The actual original wording is in our, it's in the wording in our packet. The original wording was gas pumps and canopies shall not be located, cannot be located immediately adjacent to any residential use. All screening must be in accordance with standards for a type screen described as article, blah, blah, blah. And they're adding within 600 feet.
And removing section 1, paragraph 2. Okay.
Can you explain again how they came up with 600 feet? Did you consider 400 feet, 500 feet? What's the difference between the footage?
The 600 feet is arbitrary. So if you want to go with something less, 400 feet, 500 feet, it really wouldn't give me that much heartburn. We just know we need to get some separation. Because then if somebody is going to build a lot in between, a commercial lot in between, it would give them plenty of distance. And you don't have to rely on a little sliver being.
What kind of zoning is required for a gas station? Is that industrial or?
GC.
GC.
You can actually do it in neighborhood commercial if you get a specific use permit. But GC is where it's allowed by right.
So as a practical matter, we have very little GC zoned area around here that could be newly used for a gas station.
You have some up and down 156, some along a Schoolhouse Road, and then you have a long sliver that goes basically where the confluence of, where Kevin's restaurant or Kevin's gas station is. Just to the north of that, there's a whole long strip of general commercial in between industrial zoning and the R2. There's a general commercial strip. And then there's some
Did he mute himself?
We're looking at a map.
We're looking at a map.
So it's anywhere that you have GC, you can put a gas station. such
I
as,
expect
such
that-
as Fulton Crawford Nursery.
Yeah. I expect that along Hazlitt Parkway, which some of that goes through in what's owned industrial now, there's going to be requests in there for some zoning changes, I would expect.
But they would have that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if we were to have a commercial development that wanted to go in and put gas pumps in there, then they would be restricted by this 600 feet. I mean, if there's home, yeah, to a home, yeah, to a residential area.
There's no home along Hazlitt Park.
No, but there are I mean, there'll be, you know, there's homes that's gonna be in Sweetgrass, there's homes in Caraway, but they should be.
They're not within 600.
No, I say they should be well beyond 600.
They're 800 feet.
Yeah, they should be well beyond 600. But I know that stuff is being looked.
So it works in reverse also then, right? If there's a gas station that's built and somebody wants to build a residential around it, the residential that's restricted.
No, the residents can build up there. It's just that the gas pumps, they couldn't build a new gas station, but the residents can go right up to the back of it.
I don't follow.
So if the gas station's existing and someone wanted to build 20 homes or 10 homes abutting the back lot of a gas station, you could do that.
They could do that.
If you thought you could sell your house. In that case, do we have a motion from the commission? Brian? Brian, you still there? We lose it.
Yep, sure am. Just couldn't find the mute button.
All right. We're asking for a motion on item.
Are we all in agreement with the footage?
I am.
Yeah, I've got a good, this is Matt. I've got the only thing that I have a hard time with is the arbitrary number. That's not tied to any.
Agreed.
I can at least understand, like, you know, I have a gas well that's backed up to my house and they can't build within 400 feet. So that's a standing known safe distance. So at least I could make the argument that the reason we're doing this is for safety because it's the exact same standoff from a gas oil well. But for 600, yeah, you know, I do a lot of work with engineers and we got about 38,000 engineers in the US. And if any of them came in and said, I've got an arbitrary number that we want to use, we'd kick them out of the office. So I just have a hard time with making an ordinance that's using an arbitrary number that we're going to force upon people.
Unlike engineers, Mayor Halsey, unlike engineering, there's no hard science. And engineering's associated with hard science. So that's why I would kick him out of the office too. But nonetheless, there is no hard science to this. Now, I did look at that 600 feet number, and the most effect it has is up and down the 156 corridor where all you have the bulk of residences, and along Blue Mountain Road where all the residencies are going in, is to assure, because there are spots that you could potentially build with the current ordinance, but that no one living around there would want it. Now, as you know, due to light shedding and, you know, dumpster noises that were mentioned before and maintenance items that go on around a facility such as that, seem to protect the residencies that are in place and that are being built. And that, yes, they could go up in the corridor along Hazlitt Parkway and beyond that. But it keeps them out of the immediate area.
Right, Mayor, I completely agree with the spirit of what's being done here. And I think that keeping them out of the neighborhoods, I wouldn't want a gas station next to my house either. It's just like say, trying to find something, a number that we can tie to something meaningful.
Well, I would say that if you've got a number, then make a motion with your number.
One more question. Can you build a gas station in the ETJ area?
Yes, you can. There are no zoning restrictions.
So so this would have no effect on that, changing this ordinance here?
Not if you're going to build in the ETJ.
Yeah.
So I'm just Googling a little bit of this while we talk, and I found the first one I find online was Staunton, Virginia, and their ordinance says service stations shall not be constructed closer than 50 feet to any residential district. That's a significant delta there.
This is Mayor Halsey again. I would just ask, I would have you to ask yourself, do you want a gas station with 50 feet of your home? I think
Absolutely
that's a key,
not. But
that's
I mean,
a key aspect is to ask
arbitrariness
yourself
of
if you want this next to you.
Brian, what were you saying?
No, it just talks. I'm still coming back to the arbitrariness of the 500-foot number.
So your 400 feet, you're talking about offset from a gas well to the nearest resident. Correct? Well, it's set by the state.
I'm not sure.
But it's set by the state. It's a regulatory number. You're talking about the offset from a gas well, 400 feet, that's a regulatory number, correct?
This is Matt. I was the one that brought that up.
Oh, Matt brought that up. Oh, I thought Brian did. Yeah. All right. Does somebody want to make a motion on the commission?
I'll make a
for
motion.
footing?
I'll make a
Offset
motion
distance? All right.
that we pass this amendment, but set it at 200 feet. If there was any, if there was a significant health risk, the fire code would set it. And they've done the research. 200 feet's a pretty good distance.
Do we have a second for a motion? Yeah, okay. All right, so make it a real motion.
We said on 4C? Yeah, okay. On agenda item 4C, change the ordinance amending the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the city of Haslett, section 4.2.5H, entitled Additional Use Standards for Commercial Uses Relating to the Regulations of Gas Pump Sales. Instead of 600 feet, change it to 200 feet. Yes.
Do we have a second on 200 feet on the motion presented? Amending the general use standards, setback for gasoline pumps, canopies to be located within 200 feet of any residential use. So we do not have a second. So that motion failed. Do we have another motion?
My suggestion is to go with the 450 because it's based on a regulatory number for the gas well. I thought it was 450. Is it 400?
Matthew, is the gas well offset 400 feet or 450 feet?
I couldn't tell you if it was one or the other, but I know it's about that. I couldn't be specific.
Okay. Do we have another motion? Go ahead.
All right, I'll make a motion that we recommend a change to the ordinance to read as follows: gasoline sales pumps, gas pumps and canopies shall not be located on properties within 450 feet of any residential use. I said 450, is it 400? 4C.
450 feet. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Maureen second. Okay, then let's take a vote. So,
This was a rough night.
yeah, Jim,
Yes.
Janet,
No.
Doreen,
Yes.
Brian,
No.
and Paul's a yes. So that motion passes 3-2. So we'll modify that to 450 feet, another almost arbitrary number. But it gets them away from a residence. Moving on to item 4D. Discuss, consider, and act regarding the approval of a site plan for a 120 intermodal parkway. Mr. Swain.
Chairman Wallach and members of the commission, this is a site plan that's been submitted for Intermodal Parkway and Transport Drive. There's an existing warehouse office building on the site, and the square footage of that existing building is 369,530 square feet, and they want to add an additional 108 square feet, 108,000 square feet to the north end of it. When this was originally submitted, there was no site plan that was ever approved or phasing plan. And so what we asked them to do is come in with a plan for not only the existing building, but the addition they were going to make and show parking. The reason why you got another exhibit out tonight is that the original exhibit was short parking compared to the ordinance, because you're required to, you take the number of square feet, divide it by 1,000, and then multiply that by 0.8. But when you did that for the original building, it was way underparked. And so what we asked them to do is to make up the difference with this site plan, and they have done that with this modification. And so they've agreed and also corrected their site plan to go along with our comments. So I got this information today, and so I'm passing it on to you. The representative, when you go into the public hearing portion, is here tonight. You can open it, do whatever you want.
Yes, is there somebody in the audience that wishes to speak to item 4B?
Good evening. My name is Robert Nieporty. I'm a project manager with Merriman Anderson Architects. I'm the one that submitted the revised site plan for 120 Intermodal, the expansion. What you see, what's been presented is an expansion of our revision to the parking that we had previously had submitted. as Mr. Schwanke had noted, we were under 73 parking spaces with some movement, some revision to the north side, which is actually plan left is to the left, or plan north is to the left of the sheet of the building, is where we added the additional parking spaces. We have 80 additional, 7 over the 73 that had been recommended to us.
Okay. Yes.
I'd just like to make a comment on the overall site plan. When they did it the first time, 52 of the spaces were added to the very south end along Transport Drive. So it helped out that end of the building rather than just on one end of the building. So they sort of spread them out. They added 52 on the south side and 176 on the north side, where they made up the difference.
I love you, architect. So true north is to the left and plan north is straight up. Huh?
We try our best to confound logic when we can.
You drive us engineers nuts. Okay. Are there any questions here? Thank you very much for complying, is all I can say.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Especially since you didn't get approval the first time around. I don't understand. Okay. Anybody have any comments? We don't need a motion. I guess we need a motion. Do we need a motion? I guess we need a motion. It's an action, so motion. I'll make a motion that we approve, recommend approval of the site plan for 120 Intermodal as presented tonight at the meeting. We have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Jim did. Vote, Jim?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Doreen?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And Paul's a yes. All right. Move on to item 4E. Item 4E is discuss, consider, and act regarding approval of a site plan for 405 Westport Parkway. Mr. Schwank.
Chairman Wallach and members of the commission, this is something you've seen before, actually. And that submittal, they had 350,270 square feet. And they decided they had the room to put in 50,000 more square feet. So we made them come back in when there's a substantial change to their plan. They do have adequate parking, and they do meet our ordinance, and we're recommending that this site plan be approved.
Is this possibly the last warehouse on Westport Parkway?
Probably not.
I was under the impression that the land that is to the, would that be the west or the north? The west of this. I thought that land was going to be saved for other things that Haslett had different ideas of uses for.
Yeah, this was intended to be mixed use in the comprehensive plan, but it was never rezoned from industrial to mixed use. So this was approved on that basis.
But this property doesn't go all the way to 156. Am I correct? There's land in between this and 156. Right.
We're not hearing anything online.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sitting here talking. I said, where this property sits, Brian, west of it is Old Town, zoned Old Town, but this property sits in an area that is zoned industrial. The comprehensive plan showed this same area to be mixed use, but that was only the comprehensive plan. The zoning was never changed. So we approved that this distribution facility on this piece of property because it's industrial, and we approved it in there, contrary to the comprehensive plan, which had no bearing other than if the wish list, basically. So what they're asking now is just to expand the size of the building. It still meets all of the other criteria. We discussed still, I guess, the things that we talked about when we approved this, the lighting, the trees around it, everything.
Yeah, the landscape.
All of the landscaping and everything else still holds.
That's all applicable.
Yeah, that all holds. Everything we approved prior.
Yeah, there's a whole package that was submitted with this, and it should have been a package where they go through and they reiterate everything that was, well, there it's on the screen behind you, all the different sheets and the landscaping and so forth. That's a copy of the plat.
So they just figured out they can build a little bit bigger building on this particular piece of property.
That's correct.
Isn't there a variance as well?
Matt, what?
Wasn't there a variance issued as well?
For some of the landscaping and
Might have been
sidewalks.
for landscaping and I think for a sidewalk along the front, stuff like that. They didn't have to build a sidewalk.
Yeah, nothing has changed except the rear of the property, where they rearranged the parking and they've expanded the building.
Yeah.
So does this have a significant traffic impact?
No.
Well, there'll be more trucks processed through there, right?
It has approximately the same amount of trucks, just more square footage of operating room inside the building. And just a note, just like the last plan, which I didn't mention, and this site plan, our engineer has reviewed it, and they have no more comments on it.
I had asked about a traffic impact on this, and the response was nothing of any significance. Originally, we did, yes, yeah.
Yeah, the fact is that everything coming out of this is gonna go to 156. We already kind of determined that. It's not gonna head back to 35. So, but I don't know that we can do much about that now. That's all been, everything's been approved out here. They just want to expand the building.
I mean, if this is not gonna exasperate.
Any other discussion? Y'all want to go home?
Nice.
What did you have, Brian?
I was just laughing at your go home comment. Sorry.
Oh, you're already home. Don't laugh at it.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to make mention that this is on Transport Parkway and Intermodal. In that vicinity, they'll have quick access to the new Haslett Parkway when it comes through. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is on Westport. Right, just down the road, just down here.
It's on Westport Parkway, just 600 feet east of.
It'll be the nearest warehouse to 156 downtown.
Just east of Old Schoolhouse Road.
Yeah.
It'll be kind of across the street from the other warehouses
How about that?
that are empty.
Okay. All right. Excuse my comment.
Well, and what we talked about there was that because of the configuration of the street, they're not going to make a turn to the east to head to Intermodal Parkway or 35, like that they'll make a turn to the west, head to 156, and add more truck traffic on 156, which we go. Well, I hope. Don't want to see anybody. Okay, do we have a motion? Anybody want to make a motion on this item 4E? I will make a motion. I will make a motion that we recommend approval of a site plan as submitted, a revised site plan for 405 Westport Parkway. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
Vote, Jim? Dennis? What?
I'm sorry, you asked for a vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, abstain.
Abstain. Dennis?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Doreen?
I will also abstain.
And I'm a yes. So it passes 3 to 2 abstain. 3 to 0. 2 abstain. We, as far as I know, nothing in executive session. So item 5. Item 6, nothing to talk about there. Item 7, status of current development project.
That's going to be at the December 21st meeting. There was only like 19 days in between the last report. So we'll give you a good report at your December 21st meeting.
Thank you very much. Item number 8, future agenda item.
We may have two plats that are in our extraterritorial jurisdiction that may be here if they finish up all their comments. I know one is being finished up today, and if the second one is, then we might have 2 items.
So they're both ETJ?
That is correct.
Are we still bound by the 30-day? How much time? From the time they submit them and it goes through you?
Well, what happens is if they are not complete, their engineering plans, if they're not complete in order, then we really don't accept the plat until the plans are ready. And then when the plans are ready, the plat can be submitted, and then we process it through. But if the plans aren't complete, we really don't want to see it. Now, they include the plat in their plans, but we have them put a note on there, this is not for approval. And so there's no 30-day issue on it.
Very good. So you will, so everything needs to be through you, reviewed, approved, and then submitted here. And when it's submitted here,
you're within the window.
Then we're within the window, but we would assume there's not a lot of discussion. You guys,
That's
it's already
correct.
been reviewed.
That's
Engineering
correct.
reviewed,
That's correct.
planning reviewed, et cetera. Okay.
Yes, our engineers all over it. That's why they've been trying to do this now for about 2.5 to 3 months. And I know at least on one of them, they've got their act together. And the other one, they're still working on it.
I'm glad that our engineering consultant is really reviewing things.
Yes, he is.
That's great.
Being that this is in the ETJ, are they doing this as a courtesy for the city?
Absolutely not. The city, as well as every other city in the state, can extend their subdivision rules and regulations into the extraterritorial jurisdiction. So they have to abide by our rules and meet the city standards. And the philosophy is that someday those areas will be in the city, and we always, and the state allows us to make sure they meet our standards. So when they do come in, there's no question, and they'll be according like everything else is.
So all of that development between Harmon and the south of Blue Mound, on the south side of Blue Mound?
Excuse me, this is agenda item for future agenda items. This is not for discussion. We can't talk about.
Hey, man, I'm a rookie, okay? So, yeah. Okay, very good. So future agenda item, right? Item number 9, review meeting calendar for project scheduling and meeting dates. I think we've already set the date for December, haven't we? Yeah.
Yes, you have. It's the 21st.
21st, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is the December 21st, and then at that meeting, we'll be discussing the 2022 schedule.
All right, very good. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have a second? Jim?
I'll second. Yes.
Okay. Vote.
I'll second.
Brian, vote. Yes or no? Adjourn.
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Doreen?
Yes.
Halsey, yes, we're adjourned.
This conference is no longer being recorded.